Hey, pandas! Welcome back. It's your boy Tambourine coming back at you with another edition. Got another edition of Star Trek Picard review series for you. I'm joined by my champish one up there in the corner. Woo! Hold on there. Up there.
Wait, there we go.
Up there in the corner. Yeah! He's in Portland today, folks. So we're gonna be long distance reviewing this bad boy for you. So. Let me get these notifications here. We got John with the like, we got Greg with the like and the share, we got Lady Panda with the like, we got Jeremy with the like on the stream. What's up, everybody? Panda time, yeah! You're damn right it's panda time. You goddamn right. Gabriel says I'm here from today till Tuesday. That's awesome, Gabriel. Glad to see you, buddy. Welcome in. So today we've got the 4th episode in the first season of the new Star Trek Picard show. For you. Yep. We got the 4th one. So yeah, we are gonna just dive right on into it. First, let me introduce to you again for the 4th week here my very special guest. He's not really a guest on the show. He's kind of a co-host. My co-host, Grant Sabo, up there in the corner, is tuning in from Portland. So he is joining us a la Discord today. So if we have some
Me and Brother Panda have been watching you play video games longer than anybody on the planet.
Yeah, no shit, you guys have been. So yeah, it's if we get a little connectivity issue, I do apologize about that, Panda fam, but we'll keep it as crisp and as smooth for you tonight as we possibly can.
Shiesty hotel internet. So get choppy.
Hopefully you guys let me know if you can hear him okay. I'm sure you guys can hear me okay. I see everything registering on the levels, so we should be okay. So we're just gonna let's jump right into it, man. Let's talk about last week's episode. Let's talk about the season in general, because we both talked about this, how it's been a lot of build-up and exposition, and the first episode was like jam-packed with action. And then episodes 2 and 3 they almost felt like moving chess pieces on a chessboard to kind of get everything set up, you know?
You know, that's a really great way to put it. And it makes sense from we have to sell this perspective. Because if you come out with the exposition right away, you might not get your pilot approved. You're not going to get people interested. By putting a little bit of action in up front in that first episode, first of all, it creates explaining everything about the world, but you're making people curious about it. And then you satiate that curiosity in episodes 2 and 3. Right. Well, having little bits of action here and there, but way more exposition, story building, world building than anything else. Then in this episode, they're starting to push the old throttle down, hammer down, and we're getting the action off and a running.
Yeah, sorry. Someone was saying they couldn't hear you in chat, and I just want to make sure that's the case. Like, this is what happened when we did this the first week, and like everything's registering, and then you can barely hear him. Okay, hold on. Let me fix that. All right, go ahead and say that one more time, Champish. Repeat.
Randy, can you hear me?
Randy, can you hear him? Panda fam, can you hear my buddy?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear him, pandas? I'll crank him all the way up if I have to, man. I don't even care.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I'll crunk him. I'll get him crunked up, man. No. I'll get him all crunked up, guys. Don't worry. Yes. Okay. It's better. Okay. Thank you very much, guys.
Okay. Thanks, Randy. We appreciate the feedback.
Thank you very much, guys.
And also Gregory.
Thank you, Troy. Thank you, Lady Panda. Thank you, John. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Randy. Appreciate you guys. All right, so go ahead with your point.
Good looking out. What I was saying was that it makes sense from we have to sell this to the network perspective.
Sure.
So episode 1 is a big, giant, like, we need to get people hooked on this. There's a lot of action, but not a lot of story. But the action leaves enough question to make you want to learn more about the current state of the world, about the story, about the characters, about where they've been. You know, there's a little bit of that in episode 1, but a lot of, all right, let's ramp this up and get people excited about it. Then in episode 2 and 3, they slow it down. They spend a lot of time world building. They spend a lot of time telling the story, and we get a lot of exposition world building, things like that.
Right.
But now it's time to actually get into the meaty part of the story. We've got enough of a handle on what's going on here in the current world situation. We've got our MacGuffin, so we've got plot devices and things like that.
Indeed.
And now it's time to start putting the hammer down and getting the throttle up on the story here. No, other way around. We're pushing it up. Like a boat.
We're not powering down the Death Star here, man. We're powering it right up, man.
No.
But he's absolutely correct in his assessment. Now, for those of you who haven't joined in or don't know what we're talking about, this is the new Star Trek series titled Picard.
Cheers.
Cheers, buddy. Cheers. Let me grab
apple juice.
Some apple juice here. Cheers to you, sir. So we're talking about Picard, which is the new Star Trek show. And for a quick synopsis or breakdown of what's happened through the first 3 episodes, basically Picard is still reeling from the death, or still mourning the death of Data. He still thinks about it 20 years later. Apparently there's some girl that finds out who he is. They messed with the Romulans many years ago. Like they said they were gonna like help evacuate them from their star going supernova status, and then all of a sudden synths ended up like getting taken over.
Synths being androids, but not
Androids.
quite. I think they make the distinction between synths and androids because they're not quite as sophisticated or sentient as Data.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah. So yeah, like AI beings, and they end up all going like haywire, and they end up destroying Utopia, Planitia. I keep wanting to say Planitia, Utopia. Nate, thanks for the like, and Troy, thank you for the share on the stream, by the way. But he says I apologize, but missed the beginning, so thanks. Yeah, no, thank you, man, for the heads up on the audio stuff. So the synths go about like just like destroying this whole planet. It ruins the whole evacuation operation.
Mars. The planet is Mars.
Mars is still burning. Yeah, the planet
still
is
burning 20 years later. The atmosphere is still burning. They like wrecked it by killing all these ships. Now the ships were being built to get the Romulans out of or off of Romulus and relocate them to more suitable areas as their star was about to go nova. Of course, the Romulans were longtime adversaries of the Federation, so this was supposed to be this grand gesture of friendship by the Federation and really kind of living into their idealization, their ideal role, and ideal universe, and things like that. But
so these synths destroy that, and you come to find out like all the synths in the Federation are like outlawed. They can't produce them. They've all been decommissioned. Daryl, thank you for the like and the triple share, by the way, on the stream, buddy. They've all been decommissioned, and you know, fast forward 20 years to the future where Picard's on the chateau. He's
and the Federation abandons the plot to rescue the Romulans then. Important.
Yes, very important. So we're on Picard's retired. He's on his chateau. Hey, what's up, Dutch Gun? Thanks for the like on the stream, buddy. Appreciate that. So he's on his chateau trying to retire. This girl finds him. Essentially, like I'm trying to just like really quick skip through like these first 3-4 episodes so people know where we're at. He finds out that this girl named Daj, and she has a twin sister named Soji, and these two girls are essentially daughters of Lieutenant Commander Data that were, he theorizes, possibly created by Bruce Maddox, which is back in Next Generation. Basically what they come to find out is they need to find where this Bruce Maddox is, because he like dipped the hell out after the synths like had their revolt and got decommissioned, and he's kind of nowhere to be found, except he's found in last episode at Free Cloud, like super fast from Rafi, which so we find out that he's in Free Cloud. And basically the first few episodes are Picard trying to go back to Starfleet and like find any kind of help that he can to go save this second sister, because in the first episode this Romulan death squad known as the Tal Shiar come and basically try and assassinate her and succeed in doing so.
She takes a bunch of them out but eventually succumbs after Picard throws to protect her. So Picard, he's feeling real guilty about it because he swore to protect her, being Data's daughter, and it's just not going to work out so hot.
Right. So Picard, being Picard, feels compelled to go back and try and find the sister and see if he can possibly save her, because again, that connection with Data. So He's going through. He gets denied by Starfleet. They accuse him of like hubris. They deny him. You come to find out that there's this commander by the name of Commander O who is kind of doing some nefarious workings with Commander O-Face.
Commodore O.
Commodore. I'm sorry, Commodore.
She's way up there. She's way beyond the commander.
That's right, Commodore O-Face. I forgot. So anyway, she's doing some nefarious things, and she's in talks with these what I believe are Tal Shiar operatives
or might be Jat Vaj.
Jat Vaj, yeah, like super deep. That's it, Jat Vaj. Thank you for reminding me.
I just really can't believe I came up with that.
That was good. You did good there, buddy.
I was going to try and make something up, and then what I made up was actually the right thing.
So these two operatives are like trying to work. Like the operatives are a brother and sister, and they're apparently under the command of Commodore O-Face, because she talks to this girl after she talks with like super high chief Admiral Clancy lady, because like Clancy's like, oh, Picard wants a ship and thinks there's Romulan assassins, and Commodore O-Face is like, interesting. Fuck. Like, she basically goes to like, she basically calls her like her Jat Vaj operatives in, and she's like, hey, like, they better not hear about them. Bruno would like a shout out. Bruno!
Hello, Bruno.
What's up, Bruno? How you doing?
Ciao.
Ciao, Bruno. Ciao, Bruno. I'm not gonna say ciao, Bella, Bruno, because that would be bad, but he might think something else of me if I said ciao, Bella, Bruno. Paradox, what's up, buddy? Thanks for the like on the stream, dude. We're just reviewing Picard series episode 4. Francesca, thank you for the. Speaking of someone with the last name of Rizzo.
Yeah, that's my fiance's sister.
Oh, what's up, fiance sister? Hello. Thank you for the 75-day followage, Troy. What's up, Francesca? Thank you for joining on in. So anyway, back to the series. Speaking of Rizzos, this is the name of the female operative, and Narek is her brother. Mm-hmm. And she calls, Commodore O-Face calls in Rizzo, and she's like, rah, 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 this better not happen again, you. And the sister's like, well, I got someone that's on it. And the Commodore's like,
I got my best guy on it,
which
turns out to be her brother.
Which turns out to be her brother. And the Commodore's like, I don't trust him very much either, so make sure this gets done. We don't have any other opportunities here. So Picard's looking, he's reaching, man. He's pulling for people who can possibly help him, and he finds his old first officer.
Found out that actually Rafi was not his first officer.
Really? What?
Yeah, I did. So someone mentioned, I just happened to, like the other day, crawl onto the Instagram of the main writer.
Okay.
Whose name is escaping me right now. But he was on there answering... No, it wasn't Kurtzman. It was the other one.
Kurtzman, okay.
No. But he was on there answering questions of fans. And he was being really cool about it. Even people that were like mean to him were like, hey, this is my virtual living room. Like, if you're going to come in here, be respectful. Like, sure. He was really, really cool about it. It was awesome that he took the time to do that. But somebody mentioned Rafi being the number one, and he said, actually, she wasn't. She was his security chief.
Oh, so she was like... God, what's her name from way back in the first? Tasha, yeah. She's like Tasha. Oh, that's badass. I didn't even realize that.
Interesting connection with Tasha and the Romulans, too.
Yeah, that is interesting, because... No, that was... Never mind, that's a completely... We'll talk about it off stream. Or unless you want to mention it right now, man, and the connection with the Romulans. Tasha.
Well, I mean, this is like going way back, but of course... Tasha was killed in season 2, but in the episode Yesterday's Enterprise, which was much later on, she comes back because the Federation's at war with the Klingons, so Worf had never come over to be part of Starfleet. And so Tasha hadn't died, and so she was there, and she knew that she was supposed to be dead in that timeline. So yes, Tasha Yar.
Yep.
And so they sent her back on the Enterprise C into a battle which was purportedly destroyed.
That's right, back in time, that whole back in time thing.
Correct. But turns out she wasn't killed, she was captured, brought back to Romulus. She had a daughter who was Sela, who you encountered several times later on in some of the Next Generation episodes. But it was also played by Denise Crosby as well. But she was the daughter of Tasha Yar and some Romulan.
That's crazy. Ramalama ding dongs. Anyway, I don't know why I said that. Anyway, yeah, Nate says he has said makes me wonder if Before will be a part of the crew and lore will resurface. Well,
yes, I wonder those things also. In particular, the bit about lore. Although they did deactivate him, did they not? At the end of Descent, I think they did.
It was yeah, they did. They did deactivate him because
he's like, "I love you."
Yeah,
bro.
And then in the very first episode, you do see Before disassembled. So I don't know. Maybe
we've seen his butt, but
yeah. So anyway, Picard is essentially looking for all these people to find help from. He finds his first officer, or his old security officer, I guess, in Rafi. She's like basically like, "Screw you, but I found you a pilot." And then decides to later join up with the crew. He recruits this doctor from the Daystrom Institute, Dr. Girardi, because she's the like lead expert on synthetics on the planet, and she's the one he goes to first in the first episode to like ask her about like the possibility of this even being feasible, which is where he hears, Bruce Maddox, or not for the first time, but he hears about Bruce Maddox and him doing this, which is what prompts, I think, him to say, we got to find Bruce Maddox. And then Rafi's kind of got her own little side thing going on with Bruce Maddox. Not really sure why she wants to go to Free Cloud.
She wants to go to Free Cloud for some other reason, I think.
I think so, too. Maybe she just wants to get high off of the flowers there. I don't even know, man. Maybe I got some good hallucinogenic flowers, but who knows?
She likes them drugs.
Which also confuses the fuck out of Data when Tasha's daughter surfaces.
Yeah, because he's like, I banged your mom.
Whoops.
There's a meme that's out there where it's Sela, and she's like, there's a line where she actually meets Data, and she's like, oh, so this is the android who I've come to respect in battle. And then Data says, just like your mother came to respect me in bed.
Oh, shit. Nice. So anyway, this is where we're at. We've been setting a lot of pieces here through the first few episodes, and we're starting to come to what looks like, or what could be a mid-season climax next
we haven't
week.
Explained why the Romulans are after...
Go ahead.
The Romulans are after Soji. They're like trying to kill her, and they did kill Daj because they are convinced that one of them will be like the destroyer of worlds, kind of like Shiva,
thank you for the like, by the way, and Alex with the shares and the like on the stream. Appreciate it. Go ahead. Sorry, buddy.
So it's they're after her because they don't really like super high tech technology and things of that sort, and they think that androids and synths are going to destroy the world and the worlds, the universe. Universi. There's
been a couple references in the last couple episodes to her as this so-called destroyer when apparently all demons are unshackled and like they answer the call of the destroyer, which I think that's why Romulans are so fearful of synthetics, maybe because of this prophecy. But
I've got a theory on why Romulans are afraid of synthetics.
Go ahead. That's a good theory you got there. That's a good theory. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into the fourth episode here and talk about this a little bit. So yeah. First scene, which they've been doing a lot with these episodes this season, which I like, except for the first episode. They started the first episode off with a dream sequence of him and Data.
Yeah, this is a really good observation. I love this.
I'm very curious from a cinematic point of view. This is just the English person and the movie person coming out in me, like overanalyzing perhaps. But every one of these episodes has opened up with some sort of flashback to what happened. Like the second episode was the flashback of... Remind me, Shane. Remind me.
There was the Mars attack.
And the third episode... Oh, yeah, that's right. The second episode was the Mars attack. The third episode was the fallout from the Mars attack with Rafi and Picard. And in this episode... We go back 14 years, it says? Yeah, 14 years on the planet Vashti. And this is the relocation effort that you're seeing here in this scene. And you can see Picard is being welcomed by Romulans, and there's a reason that I have this picture up as a stark contrast to something that happens later in the episode. But you can see like he's greeted by all these Romulans. They almost hail him as like a savior and a saint coming to save them. You look like you want to say something, buddy. Go ahead.
Oh, he's just looking like Dr. Livingston there.
Yeah, he is a little bit actually. But
I presume
one of the biggest point that I found, or the biggest function that this scene serves, is to help us establish, or to help us understand his relationship with this woman, Zani, and her son Elnor.
Adopted son
too. That's a good point that you bring up there, because he makes mention a couple times to her, like she wants him to find a different place for him. He doesn't belong here. Like he's not part of their family. Yada yada yada. So basically this whole like scene is to like he reads a story to the boy. He does fencing with him, and the story that he brings to the boy is actually the Three Musketeers, which is awesome.
One of our all-time favorites.
One of our all-time favorites, both in literature and on the screen. But as far as the thematic kind of vibe of this particular episode is broken promises and promises, and kind of an all for one for all mentality, where it's very clear here that Picard wronged the Romulans and they still hold that grudge like 14 years later. And you'll see what I mean when we get later into the episode. But big themes here: broken promises, and kind of that all for one mentality of, not leaving people behind, and everybody for one and one for everybody else sort of thing. So you kind of see that here with the Romulans and their society too. I feel like they are very united in the way that they think about things, specifically about him. In this episode. So just a really good opening scene. You get some great scenes of him reading the story to the boy, some fencing scenes with him and the boy where he's kind of teaching him how to fence and whatnot. And I wish I'd have gotten that on the clip here. It's too fast for me to actually clip, but you can see here a scene of him. Beautiful cinematography too. I've got
so it's like they did a really, really nice job here with a lot of the backdrops and some interesting and very telling choices that they make with how things are filmed and the way things look.
Which we'll get into in a little bit here too.
Yeah, I don't want to steal your thunder.
A couple of themes regarding that. Omar, thank you for the like and the massive share bomb, by the way, buddy. I'm sorry I missed that. So you've got this scene, beautiful nighttime scene where he's reading, like it looks like he's in some villa somewhere on this relocation planet, and reading this story to this boy. And then I would presume the next day he's fencing with him, or sometime in the future he's fencing, a couple days later or whatever, he's fencing with him, and he actually gets the call while this is happening that the synths have attacked Mars. Now remember, this is all 14 years ago. So we're getting that flashback at the very beginning of the scene, or at the very beginning of the episode. JB, thanks for the like on the stream, by the way, buddy. So he's getting the call. We hit Bizzle, and you can see like how taken aback he is by the fact that like immediately the questions asked like, what does this do for our the questions asked by Zani, I think, the woman that's in the very first scene with him, and in a scene later on in the episode, she asks him like, what does this do for our relocation efforts? And he's like, I promise, like I'll be back, I'll do whatever it takes. And we find out, we obviously know at this point in the show that, well, he didn't really live up to those promises, and the Romulans view it as something completely different than like what he views it as, obviously.
Interesting too here. Well, I'll bring it up later.
Okay, sounds good.
But everybody who's listening, keep in mind about the promises.
The promises, man, the promises. Yeah, like I said, promises are a big theme in this episode. Broken promises specifically, and promises as a prison sort of thing. Like even Zani mentions it at the beginning, like when he presents to her, I don't know.
So he gives the kid the book.
He gives the kid the book.
This is what I was going to mention.
Right, and then he promises, like...
The kid says, well, you promised to read it to me tomorrow, and she says...
Right.
Promises are a prison.
Promises are a prison.
Don't ask for promises.
And then he goes, well, I got you this. I promised to bring you this, but since promises are prisons... And she's like, no, come on, man. Like, give me that shit, man. But it's important for later on in the episode, obviously. So yeah, moving on. Flash forward now to present day, and I didn't get any clips from the scene, but Dr. Girardi and Rios, the captain of this new ship that Picard has, are talking very philosophically about what it means to know that you're going to die as a human being and dealing with that as a human being and what that means, like how that makes us humans. And I think what this scene is supposed to do is supposed to set something up between Girardi and Rios at some point, because she makes like mention about like him being a conversation killer. Like she even mentions her dad, all this other stuff. And he's, I don't know. I can't feel really any kind of spark there between the two of them yet. Or like if there is one, he's like playing like,
it would be a very odd pairing, I feel, because she's so like quirky and goofy, and he's kind of Han Solo.
Well, maybe.
Han and Leia worked because Leia was a badass and she could hold her own, and Han respected that.
True.
But this girl is just kind of like kind of the accidental hero.
We don't know yet, though. We're only halfway through the season. Shit could happen.
No, but she just kind of she falls ass backwards into like helping people.
She does seem kind of like
when she killed that Romulan, she's like, "Oh, hopefully it was said on stun."
If I could label her, she's the clumsy nerd. Like sure. Like you said, she kind of just backs her way into doing good things. Like, oh, I just killed this guy with this disruptor. Oh, whoop. Enjoying the discussion. Hey, Chris. Hey, what's up, Balan? Good to see you, man. Shit, I didn't realize you watched the channel and everything. That's crazy, dude. Thank you.
I shared it.
Oh, you did? Nice. Thanks.
Yeah, that's how Daniela's sister popped on. And
Gotcha.
When one of the guys I coached with was on. I don't know if he's still here, but...
Gotcha. So anyway, this scene is from the next little portion after Girardi and Rios get done with their philosophical existential talk about what it means to be a human. And Rafi is basically like, dude, you want to go to planet Vashti? Like, because Rafi comes in and interrupts the conversation. She's like, Rios, where the fuck are we going right now, man? What has he got laid into the damn... Like, bro, you just go? Like, he just gives you coordinates and you just like a lapdog? Like... slurp it up and go like
just like a Federation,
Federation
falling right in.
Officer, man, just falling right. You can tell like that was a good interaction between the two characters. Like you could tell that kind of stung him a little bit too. Like he was like,
if anybody's gonna hook up with Rios, I think it's gonna be Rafi.
Rafi, you think? Okay,
she's more the Leia type.
Gotcha. What about Girardi and Elnor? You think you think the
possible,
two of them?
But she's possible, but she's cougaring him. I feel like.
Fair enough. Anyway, back on subject here. So
now Elnor and Soji, that I would consider.
That might happen. Hey, what's up, Chris? Thanks for the like on the stream, buddy.
He's a Romulan, so that's her type.
Ramalama ding dong. Hell yeah. It's true.
I'm gonna laugh every time you say that.
She does like Narek, so she's got a thing for the Romulans. Oh, Zelensky! I didn't realize you. What's up, buddy? Welcome to the Panda Fam. Thanks for the follow.
Yeah, Zelensky's here. He popped in last week too.
I know.
He's been a regular viewer.
Couple of people.
Cody Pudwill's on. That's my brother's buddy.
Nice. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the stream, everyone. Thanks for joining me.
Whose sister-in-law and brother are currently down in Cancun enjoying themselves.
Lucky bastards.
Yeah.
We're up here dealing with 5-6 inches of snow and about to deal with negative 14 degrees tomorrow, and they're down in Cancun, bastards.
Oh, really? I'm in the Pacific Northwest, so it's 50 and rainy here because that's what it does.
Yeah, Yep, it does. Chris, also Balan, welcome to the Panda Fam, dude. I appreciate it, man. So anyway, this scene is her going into his, which is really cool. Like, I want to talk about this for a second because both he and I thought that this particular setting here was back on Chateau Picard. And it's not. Yep. It's actually a reconstructed holodeck. There's a little quick scene with the the hospitality hologram where he's like, we've got everything up to your specifications and everything, and bada bing bada boom, we've got Chateau Picard on this ship,
which is also a clever way to save money in your budget.
Also a very good way to throw people in the previews, which we'll talk about. And we'll talk about by the end of this review. There's a lot of good things happening towards the end of this episode. Like,
they sneak stuff in, and my boy, the champish one here, is Mr. Tambourine Panda is very good at sussing them out because he's got an eye for such things.
Well, I suss things out, and then my man here fills in the gaps, so it's all good. We work in tandem together really well here. So, anyways,
almost like we've known each other for a quarter century.
Yeah, right. That's insane. Jesus Christ. Anyway, so we've got Rafi over here, and she goes into his, which is cool. We get the first come, like his first, like,
I enjoyed that too.
Captain Picard come into his quarters. So she beeps in, and he's like, come, and she comes, and she's, wow, what are you doing going to planet Vashti? Like, so that's the planet that we see at the very beginning of the episode, where they're relocating a lot of people, a lot of the Romulans, for the supernova event, and this is the planet that he wants to go back to now. Luke, what's up, buddy? Thank you for the re-supporter for 2 months, baby. Hell yeah, dude. Thank you very, very much, man, for coming in and supporting the stream and everything. But anyway, so he wants to go back to planet Vashti, and you know, if you've been following along on these review series and you've been following along with the show, you probably understand that that's a really, really, really poor choice. For him to go to that planet, especially after like everything happened with the synths and the Romulan evacuation was basically halted and stopped, and everybody kind of abandoned it. So the Romulans probably, you know, you could probably assume that they're not terribly happy with the Federation right now, and specifically probably not very happy with him because, again, he made a lot of promises that he couldn't deliver on, unfortunately. And I think this is one of the biggest learning things for him through these last 15 to 20 years is it's almost like a meta nod to the fact that, like, the shit in the Next Generation, you're like, yo, writers, the shit that you wrote for me in the Next Generation, the talking and the diplomacy ain't gonna work nowadays.
Yeah, so the world is a lot different, and Picard is the...
What's up, Ethan? Thanks for the like, buddy.
Hello, Ethan. Yeah, Picard's the ultimate diplomat. That's his main power. You know, he's very, very good at talking through things, and you saw that in Next Gen. Things very, very rarely came to a fight because Picard was typically able to talk his way out of them. It was very rare that he couldn't. Now, he wasn't afraid to fight if he absolutely had to, but it was only as a last resort, and we'll see that later on in this episode as well. But the thing is that in this world, it's not quite as benign as the world we saw in the Next Generation. Things are a little bit more rough and tumble here. It's a little bit more dystopian, and so diplomacy might work, but it's not going to have the same success rate that it did 20, 30 years ago.
Right. This is a different, and to that point, you know, Grant, like you said, is 20 years have passed since all of this good vibey feeling bullshit with the Federation, and I feel like it's a mirror, almost a mirror of the shit that, like, it's a mirror of real life, man, because in what real world right now can you literally get through? I would struggle to find anybody in their 60s or 70s where I could go up to them and say, yo, have you ever had to fight for anything in your life, like actually physically fight something, or like stand your ground on something where your talking didn't immediately solve the issue? And I guarantee you 0% of the people would say no. 0% of people would say no. Everybody in their lives has had to fight or take a stance or maybe get physical with something or someone or what have you. Calls Worf a coward and lives instant regress and lives instant legend status for Picard. Oh, calls Worf a coward, right? He called, dude, I remember that episode where he literally like that, but that was always Picard's thing with Worf. Like, he always knew how to play on Worf's honor.
Yeah, he could pluck the strings.
Always.
Pluck the warp strings. And play the ridges on his forehead.
Exactly. But but what we're gonna get to eventually here when we talk about this episode is, and a little sprinkle, little tantalization for you, Panda, is that his talking doesn't do that for him at all in this series. In fact, it has quite the opposite effect, actually. Like it's
almost, it's funny because I just thought of this, and then it reminded me of something that I had sent to you earlier. Mm-hmm. So before, his talking would get him out of everything, and now when he talks, you made mention that it makes it worse, and it's almost like Larry David talking in Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Right, exactly. Like everything he does and says in that show, it just makes things worse. It's
all of a sudden it's womp womp womp.
Cue that up every time Picard opens his mouth in this series, because seriously, that's what happens. Interaction with Clancy. I need a ship. I need this. The pure hubris. Like seriously, that's how it is in this season, and I like that. I like the fact that they very realistically showed what it's like for a guy to be removed from Starfleet for 20 years and then to all of a sudden just try and jump back into it. You're gonna
and it's not like your diplomacy skills just go away, It's I think the world that has changed more than Picard. Not that he hasn't changed in a lot of ways, but
look, everybody, JB just said that's better storytelling, and I agree 100% with you, JB.
Absolutely.
A lot of people enjoyed The Next Generation because I think it was a product of coming out in the time that it did, where a lot of things were very good, I would say.
So the idea with the original series and with Next Generation and Roddenberry's vision is that he wanted to show the world as it could be.
Yeah, a utopia.
Now, if you tried to release Next Generation now, it would get absolutely panned by the critics for that reason. Mm-hmm. And to JB's point, it's not good storytelling. This is a much better, much more well written, much more flushed out idea.
Exactly.
It's cool. It's the Superman syndrome. It's very difficult to write good stories for Superman.
Exactly. Because the guy literally can do no wrong. It was like when everybody gave Schneider shit for him actually killing the guy at the end of Man of Steel and like breaking his neck. It's like, oh, Superman would never, ever, 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 ever do that. And it's like, yeah, well, maybe he would.
It's when did that movie come out? It's 2016, so
yeah, maybe he would actually, like, when faced with someone literally threatening to destroy everything he loves. But that's a separate story for a separate day. But to JB's point, instead of him being the Deus Ex Machina, which he tended to be, I wouldn't call him the Deus Ex Machina of like the entire series of Star Trek: The Next Generation, but he was certainly the Deus Ex Machina in a lot of episodes.
Yeah, it was quite often that everything was going wrong, and then you hit that last commercial break, and then you come back from that last commercial break, and he's somehow talked his way out of it in a somewhat anticlimactic fashion.
Yeah, exactly. It's like 5
minutes left in the episode.
Like I told you, the best example that I found was the episode where God, what's the name?
Wesley.
Wesley, thank you, Wesley.
Will Wheaton plays him.
Will Wheaton does play him, but Wesley Crusher, Beverly's son, where he goes for academy and he's paired against the other students, and he ends up helping the other kid because that's what you do. You help a fellow Starfleet person in need when they're struggling. And when time comes for the scores to come about, the guy's like, no, man, don't give it to me. Give it to Wesley. Like, he totally helped me out and, like, basically got me through this. Most people would have been like, thanks for the position, guy. Appreciate it. Fuck you, Wesley. See you later, bro. Like, a lot of people I know would have done that anyway. And that's what I'm talking about, like, this utopia. Like, we all hope that people can get to that point at some point, but the reality is far, far different. And this show really does a good job of kind of heaping reality on people, and I think a lot of TNG fans are, I don't want to call them afraid of that. I just think that they
it's a different thing. They want something that existed and not something that can exist currently.
Right. Well, they want something that existed 20 years ago, and it's just that's not. It's again, like I said, it's almost a meta nod to the fact that like all of the writing in the Next Generation isn't gonna work. Like that the way that they wrote the Next Generation isn't gonna work in this particular iteration of this show or whatever.
Nor should they try.
Nor should they try. Like you said, it would get just absolutely destroyed by critics. But anyway, we're getting a little bit off topic. I want to reel it back into the actual specific episode here. So,
cheers to that.
Cheers to that. Anyway, back to them, the crew telling Picard that he's insane for wanting to go to planet Vashti because this is the planet where they put a lot of the refugees, and then basically the Starfleet screwed them all.
Yeah, Vashti was not probably supposed to be the final destination. It's like, why don't you guys just chill here for a while we find you a more suitable planet? Well, a more suitable planet never happened.
Yep, exactly. And Vashti was it. So yeah. And we will get into that here in just a second. This is a nice clip or nice pick of the three of them. You got Jurati on the left, you've got Rios in the middle, kind of in the back there looking away, and then Rafi on the very right hand side there, basically all questioning why the hell Picard would want to go to planet Vashti in the first place. This is where Rafi and Rios have their back and forth about like just laying in the coordinates and like, didn't you let him know what's going on with Vashti? And this is,
and I'll say this too. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but
no,
like as ham-handed as some of the exposition is, and a little bit forced, I will say that all of the actors are doing a phenomenal job. It's not Patrick Stewart carrying the whole thing, but each one of the people on this I've been genuinely impressed with one exception, and that might be just because I haven't seen enough of them yet.
Gotcha. And this is where Rios says. This is where it kind of first crystallized with me that like Picard is out. Like I won't call him out of his depth because I don't think Picard could really.
Oh, it's your microphone.
Yeah.
I was like, what kind of crazy goblet is that you're drinking out of?
Anyway,
like some sort of goth like cauldron goblet.
No, it's my microphone. But anyway.
I see it now.
This is where in the episode it first kind of crystallized with me a little bit, where it was like, Picard is never really out of his depth, but it's very clear here that he's not been involved in any Starfleet doings for the last 15 years. Because Rios clearly says to Rafi, he's like, I figured he would have known what was going on. And Picard's basically like, what are you talking about? Like, what's going on? So like it's a very clear to me here specifically that like, again, he's a little bit in over his head, not out of his depth per se, but in over his head a little bit. He's assuming that things are the way they were 14 years ago, and every time he makes that assumption, he immediately gets bitch slapped like by somebody in a position of higher authority than him, or in this case, the Romulans, which you'll see here shortly. So anyway, let's see. So we have the talk between, basically Picard tells all three of them like, yo, we're going to planet Vashti whether you like it or not. And Rafi questions him about, does this remind you of the woman or the planet and the boy, which we see at the very beginning of the episode. And I think what Rafi is trying to essentially tell him here is like, look, you need to like kind of bury your emotional attachments at this point, because like we don't need that stuff getting in our way. We need to go to Free Cloud. And he has a very real moment with her, and a very real moment with all of his fans. Like, not only if you're a Jean-Luc fan, but a Patrick Stewart fan, this was a very real moment where he says, I may never come out this way again. Which to me, very, very much struck a chord, because it was like, yeah, Patrick Stewart's getting older, man. And this
80, right?
This is very likely his last rodeo in regard to Star Trek. Like, whatever they do with this Picard series is probably the last thing he does.
Yep.
So it was just another one of those meta moments where he's not going to be this way again, meaning Planet Vashti, but he also will probably never star in another Star Trek series for the rest of his life. So
Plucks on the heartstrings a bit.
Little bit it does. So I thought that was pretty well done. And again, Patrick Stewart, just being a legend, kills it in delivering that line. So
that's cool.
We transition from the holodeck chateau to the Borg cube, and I thought this was a very interesting clip. I thought this was a very interesting little picture, kind of the duality of Ramda, who is the Romulan prophet that you see in the last episode. Soji goes and questions her, and that's where we all find out, like, they've got the juxtapositioning of scenes where, like, Picard is questioning the Zhat Vash, and he is yelling at him like, she's the destroyer, and then, you got Ramda basically yelling at Soji saying, you're the destroyer. And then this is Soji in this episode kind of going back and looking over all of this Romulan lady's prophecies or tellings, or she was like the most predominant like mythologist of Romulan society, if you could say that they exist. What a panda and super clean beard. That's you, buddy.
Hello.
What's up, Jeff? Good to see you, bud. Thanks for the like on the stream, man. I appreciate it. So I wanted to clip this scene because Soji, who is the sister now that Picard is trying to find, for those of you who are just kind of tuning in for this episode or what have you. So this is the twin sister, and she's on the Borg cube, the reclamation project or whatever, where they're de-assimilating a whole bunch of Borg, and our favorite Borg Hugh is there, which he also seems very creepy. We talked about that in the last episode, Grant and I, where he seemed he got kind of that something a little off about Hugh, but I digress. Will, thank you for the like on the stream, by the way, buddy. So this very interesting where she's watching Ramda talk about how the prophecy says that eventually all demons will be unshackled and will answer the call of the destroyer. And then there's a scene a little bit later that we'll get to as to why I clipped this in particular. And I'll just say a little bit about it. Soji essentially says that she feels connected to this Ramda person.
Yeah, and you pointed out earlier pre-stream that, and I was very confused when this scene started because I wasn't sure what I was looking at when I saw exactly what you folks are looking at right now. And then as they move and they pan, you see that it is her watching a floating hologram, essentially. Yeah. But it's literally the what the hell's her name?
Ramda and Soji.
Ramda's face laid over Soji's face, which is also interesting. So something to kind of keep an eye on as the series progresses.
Yeah, definitely. It's very interesting, and it's a very short scene too. So there's the thing about the cinematography in this show that I have to say, just in like, I'm gonna pull it back here in a very general view, like, there is no scene in this show that I've found so far, except one coming up in this particular episode that we talked about pre-stream, but no real scene that I've found in this episode that felt like it should have been cut. You know what I mean? Like, every scene serves a purpose.
Yeah, there's no throwaway garbage.
Right, whether it's really subliminal, like this particular scene, or very obvious and ham-handed, like in some of the exposition scenes.
Yeah, and that's just, as JB mentioned, good storytelling. That you don't have any of that throwaway stuff, that every scene, every interaction is something to drive the plot.
Exactly.
And that makes it not boring.
Exactly. Except for one scene we'll come to a little bit later. Or we'll talk about it. I don't have anything.
Well, it has a purpose. It's just a silly one.
It has a purpose. It's just the little mini scene within the larger scene is dumb. We both agree that it's dumb. So that little 30-second part could have been cut out. But I get what they're doing with it. They just did it in a really kind of like kind of a way.
We'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it. Anyway, after the scene where she's watching Ramda, we go back to the ship, and they come to planet Vashti, and Rafi's like, well, boys, we're screwed. They got a defense system. And apparently every 30 minutes this defense system opens up a transport pathway that you have 1 minute to get through, and if you don't have clearance, you're getting blasted and you're getting exploded. You're going to be met with basically a whole bunch of defensive whatever. So Picard asks, he goes, and this is again to further highlight my point about at every turn his suggestions are just like smashed into the ground, because he's like, well, do we have clearance? And she's like, working on that, but currently no. And he's like, well, just call Central Station, which is...
Did you tell him it was me?
Which is exactly, he does the like equivalent of like, do you know who I am? Like, did you tell them who I am? And she's like, yeah, Central Station's actually the first place we tried, and they're pretty pissed that we even asked them for clearance. They're none too happy. So again, just kind of another little quick nod to the whole fact that like everything he is trying to suggest through this series is literally getting thrown back in his face. Like, oh, you think you know Picard, but here's what's really happening. And I think at a certain point in this season, that's gonna flip a little bit.
It has to, because he can't just kind of bumble his way through the whole thing.
He's going to kind of regain his balance and start kind of getting ahead of things, whereas right now he's clearly behind the 8 ball with stuff. So this is the scene of them kind of coming to that realization that, like, yeah, it's going to be kind of difficult to get to Vashti. He turns around after his Central Station suggestion and immediately asks them all for suggestions, to which Rios replies, money's always a good gift. And then a cash gift is always good. And then we get the next scene where he ends up, he beams down or gets beamed down. At which point you have to, like, I think it's supposed to be assumed at this point that they gave a cash gift, or someone said something to someone somewhere and was able to get them like a secret transport lane in, because he teleports in, and you come to find out a little bit later on that he gets quote unquote identified. So I don't think, like, I wanted to talk to you about this too, because you had mentioned like it should be assumed that they gave this cash gift and that they got beamed in, but literally like 10 minutes later in the episode, they're like, oh shit, he's been identified. We got to get the fuck out, man. So like almost like they like subterfuge, like beamed him in, like stealth beamed him in, you know what I mean?
So I think that the powers that be, I will liken this to insurgent warfare in the Middle East, right?
Okay.
So the powers that be know that he's there, they're fine with him there. However, there are factions, there are individuals that understand that he's there and want to do something about this. So this is similar to situations that you saw very common in Iraq, right? After the overthrow of Saddam, the Iraqi government wanted us there. We were supposed to be there. We would go on patrols in, hostile territory. Your Humvee hits a roadside bomb, IED, and is disabled. Doesn't hurt anybody inside necessarily, but now you're a sitting duck, and so then the phone calls start, and all of a sudden they set up snipers. They let you know that there's a ATV or a Humvee broke down, and then they put the snipers up, and now you're under sniper fire, you're under attack, you're being ambushed. So there's I feel a similar vibe here. Okay. So maybe they're officially supposed to be there. I don't think this is a government sanctioned hit, but
it might have something to do with the what do they call it? Qawat Malat or whatever, which is
Cobra Kai.
Yeah, Cobra Kai.
No, the Kalan Kai.
Kalan Kai or whatever.
Kalan Kai is the. We'll meet them in a second.
We will, but I think
we already met them. We'll re-meet them.
I feel like they may have some strings like they're pulling here to get him onto the planet. You know what I mean? There's some speculation here.
They're definitely powerful and respected.
Yes, they are. Anyway,
Nobody
you don't really know how he gets down to the planet. That's why the two of us are speculating on how he could have gotten down there. But I wanted to get this particular clip because I immediately okay, so the reason I got this was because I thought by the previews for the season that he was actually going to get captured by the Romulans and thrown in some prison. Turns out that happens in the prequel comics, but that's again a different, we've talked about that on our previous podcast. But the reason that I got this is because it's also very indicative of how, like, they chose to shoot this scene behind some sort of graded fencing or some cage looking thing, almost as if to indicate to us as the viewer that, like, on this planet he might think he's out in the open and safe and good to go, but he's actually not. He's a prisoner of this planet right now.
Yeah, and also this is just a very different beam down than his first in the opening of the episode.
Oh, yeah.
He beams down dressed in all white with a white hat. He's well received. He's welcomed with open arms. Here he's wearing black. He beams down. The first shot of him is through this grate. He's, trying to greet the Romulans in Romulan, and
nobody acknowledges him at all. Yeah, they all turn their noses up at him. And that's a good point. I didn't even think about the coloration difference. Obviously, the white for saintliness.
Come on now, English teacher.
And black for being bad, but that's a very good point that you bring up there. And just a very stark contrast to when he first came here.
I think they're just going for the contrast.
The big contrast from 14 years ago. And again, like I said, just very, to those of us with a trained eye, it's not so subtle, but to those of you who may not, be looking for these sorts of things, that's what we're here for, to point this sort of stuff out to you. And it's, to us, it's, to me and Grant here, it's something as easy as, it's a complicated cinematography trick or skill or whatever you want to call it, but it conveys so much meaning here. Like, the fact, you should immediately get the impression from this scene that there's something that's not going to end well for this scene. Like, he's a caged animal here in this scene. That's what it looks like. He looks like a caged animal,
Did you notice too what he's wearing looks a lot like the captain's jacket?
The Nemesis. I told you, remember when we were talking about this off stream, about how he had that scene where he was fencing or whatever, which ends up coming up here shortly. But how I thought it looked like the Nemesis uniform, and it's not. But I think it looks pretty freaking good, man. I like that jacket. I'd wear it too. Shit. Anyway, so he comes back down to this planet, and he's not very well received. And he comes to the Qowat Milat.
No.
This is Qowat Milat. That's what the group of people are called, the Qowat Milat. They say it a couple times.
The female warriors aren't the Kwallen Kai?
They are the Kwallen Kai, but there's something that they keep saying as far as Qowat Milat. Qowat Milat. Maybe it's like part of their greeting or something, because he says it to them. Qowat Milat.
I think he's saying hello. He's like, Anyang.
Oh, no, that I know what you're talking about. And then says something like Qowat Milat or something as well.
Yeah, he keeps saying hello to the Romulans, and he keeps saying hello on the bottom, and that's when they're turning their noses up at him. And it just reminded me of Arrested Development, just going around saying Anyang.
Anyang. It means hi in Vietnamese or whatever it was. Yeah. Korean, that's right.
Anyang.
But you're right. Kwallen Kai is we call him the Cobra Kai for ease for ease of remembrance, because there's a lot of names and a lot of things that get thrown out in this series. But
some Romulan things that are tough to keep straight, along with some new character names. So
yeah, including Zani is the woman in this picture, and Elnor is the kid that you see at the beginning of the
There's a clever
episode.
writing thing in here too. Did you catch it?
No, that's Elnor, by the way, guys. The kid in the middle.
The little boy. So they used the same actor, obviously, for Zani, and they didn't age her in this or de-age her in the flashback.
Oh.
And so that's when he's like, "Oh my God, you haven't aged at all."
Oh.
And she's like, "I have."
And she's like, "Yeah, this is a house of truth, I'll remind you." And they're all like, "Ho, ho, ho." But I thought that was just a nod to Romulans, in general, not aging.
Romulan don't crack?
Romulan don't crack. I don't know, but like, it could be taken as dual for sure. Kind of a meta moment where they're like, you forgot to de-age her in the flashback, did you? You haven't aged a bit. I didn't even think about that like as a funny kind of a side thing with her. But anyway, we're introduced to Elnor, all grown up now. That's the boy at the beginning of the episode, who he's reading the Three Musketeers to, and apparently he is now Legolas Part 2.
Dark Legolas.
Dark Legolas, man. Romulan Legolas, because holy shit, this guy is a badass. He apparently took all the trials to be a Colin Kai, but only women can be Colin Kai in the Romulan society, so he's...
Yeah, and they were trying to relocate him out of the Colin Kai house when he was a little boy, but it just never really happened.
Right.
So he took all of the tests, did all the trials and everything like that, but he can't actually ever do it.
Right.
Because he got deer.
Yep, exactly. Which is what we see in another scene coming up here shortly. But after they get reacquainted and Picard meets Elnor all grown up, we go back to the Borg cube where Ramda's under some crazy scanning thing, something, because she went kind of crazy in the last episode, pulled out a disruptor and was going to off herself. So they took her away. I think they're scanning her for some shit, trying to see what's up with her, what's going on. And it's at this point that Narek and Soji kind of come together in this episode, and for lack of a better term, like, Narek plants his seed deeper inside of Soji, like, both literally and figuratively. I mean, we're not joking here when we say this. Like, he literally, like, seduces her, then takes her to bed, then we have...
He's just been like...
Basically, that's how it's been. And I think...
Shacka-lacking around to her.
Shacka-lacking around. But anyway, it's interesting, though, because... Well, we'll get to this in a second, but, like, he's got this nefarious plan. Now, if you were listening at the beginning of the podcast, we told you that him and his sister Rizzo are the two Zhat Vash or whatever, or Tal Shiar, or...
Little known fact about Rizzo, she also doubles as a pink lady.
Yes, she does, in Greece. Catch her there 30 years ago, 50 years ago. Jesus Christ.
Oh, good God.
Anyway.
Sandy.
Yeah. Funny story. But anyway, the brother here, he's trying to play the long game. He's trying to play the manipulation game. He's trying to get her to fall for him. Because remember, guys, you never fall for the killer in a horror movie.
That's right.
Ever. You never sleep with the killer in a horror movie. And that's exactly what you're doing, Soji. It's exactly what you're doing. What are you doing? What are you doing? Anyway, so he comes and he's all like, oh, what are you doing in here talking to Ramda? And then she basically goes back to him and she's like, how the fuck did you know I was going to be in here, bro? Are you Tal Shiar? So she basically starts to question him. Like, basically, she's like, I'm usually very trusting and I don't trust you. So, like, what's your deal, bro? How do you know all this stuff? How did you know I was going to be here? Like, you have access to the what they call it, the Shaynor? The ship that Ramda was on. Like, he knows somebody who knows how to get information on that ship. Mm-hmm. So she's questioning him, and she actually asks him if he's Tal Shiar, and he goes no. And then she goes, if you were Tal Shiar, you would tell me no, wouldn't you? And he's like, yes.
Hey ma, if you were in a German Scheiße video, you'd tell me, right?
Oh, that's exactly correct here. So yeah. Oh my God, the connections you make, so your head makes sometimes, man. I tell you,
it only really works with you because you know every single reference that I know.
Yeah, it's true.
You and Kevin, it's kind of outside of that. I get astronomically less funny.
This is true.
They're scratching their heads right now and not laughing so much.
All right, so for this part, I've got basically Narek and Soji talk about Soji's how Soji feels drawn to Ramda, which is why that scene earlier is important, because you've got the overlaid face. Soji's looking at her, listening to her talk about the destroyer, and she makes it very clear to Narek later on in the episode, here in this scene right here, that she feels a connection with Ramda. She doesn't know what it is, but she feels connected to this lady. So I think that's the show writers and the camera people trying to kind of put that thought in our head, before they have to tell us, like, hey, these two might actually be connected. Or that Soji tells us that she feels connected with this lady.
Well, I mean, they're basically beating us over the head with it at this point.
Essentially, they are, yes. So basically, Narek keeps working his manipulation game, keeps telling her, like, I love you, I'm going to show you something. She's asking questions about the Tal Shiar.
Was it in this episode where he questions her about that ship, or was that in the last episode?
The last episode. She questions him about it this time.
How he found out.
How he found out about it. And he's like,
he brought it up in the last episode. Okay.
Right. He's like,
you weren't on that ship 3 years ago.
I don't have access to it, but I might know somebody who does. Mm-hmm. Appealing to her curiosity for sure. Which then leads us.
Dark and handsome.
This is the scene where they're discussing. She's questioning him about, like, are you Tal Shiar? Why should I trust you? I'm usually very trusting. Blah 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 blah. And I'm not going to discuss the next part of that scene because this is of all of the episodes that I've seen so far, this is the one scene
we have to talk about it.
This part of the scene coming up. He's like, let me show you something. And he's like
there's a Borg ritual.
Like, I'm going to show you about this Borg ritual. And she's like,
Borgs don't have rituals.
And she's like, I never thought Borgs have rituals. And he's like, so did everybody else. And then I don't know what he does, but then, like, all of a sudden they have, like, those new sneakers that the kids have with, like, the rollerblades on the bottom of them. And
no. He tells her to take off her shoes.
Yeah, and then
they're in their socks. They're in their stocking feet.
They go slip,
and the Borg. They had the Borg down there, like, kind of spraying. Like what our moms used to clean the floor when we were little,
Lysol,
right? And it made it real slippery.
Mr. Clean or whatever the.
Yeah, so it makes the floor slippery when it's clean, and they have their socks on, and they're going sliding down the hallway in their socks. And falling in love.
And falling even more in love with you.
Well, and this is
when we are apart, I know it's true.
It's true.
Because that's how I felt, so like a 15-year-old watching this scene. Like, how cheesy can you possibly get?
Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit pre-stream, but to me, this felt almost identical in ham-handedness to in Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, when Anakin is supposed to be guarding Padme, and they have, like, a real awkward dinner, and then they kind of go off into the meadow, and then he jumps on all kinds of, like, beasts and things that he's not supposed to jump on, and she's, like, magically in love with him at this point.
Basically,
that whole movie is just Anakin jumping on things that he shouldn't be jumping on, or jumping out of things that he probably shouldn't jump out of.
Including Padme. Oh! Anyway, but no, that's that. I agree with you, and like you said, we talked about this before the stream started.
It's like Patty Mayonnaise saying, like, we make a great team, and then Doug's like, oh,
yeah,
and like her heart's around his head.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's exactly how that felt in this particular scene. I was like, please tell me this is the end of this scene, because this is so terrible. But it then ends with him, like she was saying something about ending, like, coming here on a transport ship, and she's like, what, you don't believe me? And he doesn't, like, say yes right away. And then she's like, well, screw you then, asshole, like, get out of my face. Which is funny, because the entire time she basically tells him, like, yeah, I don't believe your lying ass, and he never says anything to her about it. But, like, as soon as he's like, well, I don't believe that you ended up here on a transport ship, she's like, whoa, fine then. Rebel. Like, okay, Soji. All right, Soji. And then, well, we'll get to it in a little bit, but he's apparently playing the slow game for a reason, which he explains later on in the episode.
He's getting choked out by his sister, spoiler.
Yeah, very odd. They have a very weird brother-sister relationship, almost kind of like a weird, intimate sort of...
Weird sex. I'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it in a second. Anyway, back to Picard and friends over here on planet Vashti. They in the ship come to find out that the Romulans have started to identify Picard, and, word is getting out through their networks, and basically, in so many words, it's we need to get get the fuck out of here kind of a situation, like now. So they call down to Picard, who's like, dude, I need more time. Like, I don't know. Like, I just need more time. Like, just give me more time to try and get this worked out. So he's talking with, shoot, I keep forgetting her damn name. Zani is her name.
Yeah.
Zani. It's because it's literally mentioned like once, very fleeting. Like coming up here is the only time they mention her name in the episode. But he's talking to her about how he wishes Elnor could have found another spot, because she calls him on it. She's like, you're disappointed that he's still here, because the Romulans have this thing called the what is it called? The way of absolute candor, where like you try. For them, it's very easy to do, but for us, it would be like almost like that gut wrenching, like awkward feeling where you actually walk up to someone and say something to them without any emotion or any impediment in the way. So like,
like if you're trying to get like drinks with your boys and there's some girls across the bar and like none of the guys want to go over and talk to him, and then your one buddy pipes up and he's like, I got this, and then he walks over and he's like, you know what, nice to meet you ladies, these are my buddies over there, if you want to come over have a drink with us, you're more than welcome. And then he just leaves, and then sure shit, the ladies end up coming over.
I see what you did there. Telling stories about me again, are you?
It was a gangster move.
It was,
15 years ago.
That was a gangster move, you just incorporating it in there all frickin' 15 years ago and shit. Anyway, so...
That was absolute candor.
That was absolute candor. You just walk up to someone, lay it out on the table for them, and basically like wait for their response or walk away from them.
Yeah, and the Romulans don't beat around the bush just as a general people, and that's kind of always how they've been. They tell you what they're thinking. There's not a whole lot of subterfuge there unless you're Tomalak.
Well, there's a really good part of this in the beginning of the episode, I felt like, where Picard's talking to the kid and she tells the kid like Picard isn't really fond of kids. And the kid actually says straight to Picard, like, my feelings are hurt. Like, you hurt my feelings. And Picard's like, what? Like, so it was really good way to like show like how we as humans would like, how did I just hurt your feelings? Like, I told you like I prefer like visiting you, but then because she told you this, like your feelings are hurt. But it's them. Like,
have a good night, Chris.
Yeah, have a good night, Chris. Keep up the great content, boys. This is right up my alley. Good to see you both. Have a great night. Yeah, you too, buddy. Thank you so much.
Thanks for popping in. That's cool.
Thanks
stuck around for a long time too.
Yeah, you sure frickin' did, man. That's awesome. Thank you, dude. So you know, the kid is talking to him, and I think he's taken aback by the fact that this kid is so honest with him as far as how he feels, and that's just how the Romulans are. And we see it.
The kid even asks like, "Oh, why wouldn't he like kids?" And then like she rattles off like 4 different reasons why people don't like kids.
Really honest reasons why they don't like they get involved. They basically distract from business and pleasure. Like they're a hassle, they're a nuisance. Like that's what the way of absolute candor is. Like she's not going to shield her child from hurting his feelings because of his feelings. She's going to tell him straight up how she feels, you know. So that's and again, it's kind of touched on here where, you know, he basically is like, I thought he would have found somewhere else, or you would have found somewhere else for him. And then he gets to the scene with, this is just a beautiful scene of the relocation area. My brother is finishing up watching Picard. Nice, Melissa. Tell him to jump on after he's done watching. He can watch the review with us. We're probably about halfway to 3/4 of the way through reviewing the episode here at this point, I would say.
Don't ruin it for him. That's mean.
I don't want to ruin it for him. I wonder if I should ruin it for him. Don't ruin it for him. Don't ruin it for him. Come tell him to join in after he's done watching. Because there's some, we haven't even gotten to the best part of this whole damn episode yet, which is still coming. But anyway, this is just a really beautiful.
It's gonna be a screamer.
It's gonna be a screamer. This is a really good. Again, Grant and I both agree. You and I both agree, Grant, that the cinematography is just phenomenal. If nothing else, if you like nothing else about this show, the cinematography and the score are A+ in my book.
Yep.
A+. and this is just again a reaffirmation of that. The scenery is beautiful. This is the relocation area on the planet Vashti. You see it at the beginning of the episode, and you see it again here. Again, just a very beautiful scene there. And we get the segue into Picard talking to a now grown up Elnor, because oh god, I keep forgetting her goddamn name. Zani, thank you. Because Zani tells Picard like he's gone through the trials of the Kalin Kai. He's essentially a Kalin Kai, but isn't, because he's got a dick. Basically, he's a dude.
Dick's loud.
He's a dude, so he can't be a Kalin Kai. But he's got all the skills, and he's probably one of the best warriors that she's ever seen. So Picard goes up to Romulan Legolas, and he goes, "Listen, bro." Romulus, we'll call him. Yeah, that's a good one. All right, so he's Romulus from now on. All right. So he goes up to Romulus, and he's like, all right, how do I do this? Do I get on my knees? What do I do to like bind myself? And he's like, you just tell me a story and I determine if it's worthy or not. So he tells him everything that's going on. And Elnor, of course, feeling betrayed, does that and tells Picard to jog the hell on. You abandoned me, old man, so now I find it fit to do the same to you. And he just walks out of the room, rightfully upset because Picard never came back after that the whole issue with the synths and the failed relocation project. Starfleet essentially gave up on them.
I think that. I think. Well, I'll tell it in a minute.
Okay, go ahead. We'll tell it in a minute.
Yeah.
So here's where stuff starts to ramp up in the episode, and it's pretty much like pedal to the metal from here to the end of the episode, which I thoroughly enjoy, because there's probably about 15 minutes left of the episode still here.
It's the exact opposite of a Next Generation episode where things just kind of like wind down at the end because they talk their way out of it.
Yep, exactly, and I love it, man. I love it. So anyway, we've got Picard after he talks to Elnor and Zani, and he leaves because I think he knows at this point that the Romulans like have found him and he needs to get the hell out of there. But before he decides to get the hell out of there, he goes to this little like side restaurant joint.
Who doesn't want to get a bite to eat and some Romulan ale?
Oh, exactly. Who doesn't want to get a bite to eat and some Romulan ale after, And not to mention, too, like, there's some motivation here for Picard to, as much as he may not want to hang around, like, I think he kind of wants to because of the line earlier where he's like, I may never pass this way again. So,
and he feels bad. He feels bad because these people he abandoned.
Right. He feels...
And there was nothing he could do to help them.
He feels the need to stay and kind of be apologetic to these folks, which you'll come to find out these, as I call them, Romulan ruffians, they do
former
not,
senator though.
Yeah, former senator. This guy standing up here talking to Picard, talking about all the promises and the
tears in his eyes,
and honey they poured in their ears, and promises, and this again kind of brings it around with the whole broken promises thing. Like, Picard starts to talk to him in Romulan, and he's like, my friends, I what does he say? I lament, or I grieve. That's what he says. Yeah. I grieve. And he's like, we don't want your pity, Picard, nor your help, and we never asked for your help. So they basically all grab him at this point, and essentially,
all right, boys, get him.
All right, boys. Like, and this is again crystallized moment right here in the show where his diplomacy does not get him out of a shitty situation. Like, actual violence is gets him out of this situation, which I'll show you in just a second. But again, it's kind of it takes that old TNG trope and flips it on his head, where here comes Jean-Luc and he's just going to talk his way out of everything with everybody. Unless you're frickin' Borg, which then just, get assimilated.
You can't talk to the Borg. That was why they were scary.
You can't. You just get assimilated and you die. Or, you get assimilated or you die, basically. So anyway, hold on one second here.
Where are you scooting off to there?
I gotta check work, buddy. Still checking stuff today.
So anyway, these ruffians come in, and they are hell-bent on destroying Captain Picard. And so the guy decides to be a little bit chivalrous, though, and he's like, throw him a sword. And, of course, Picard has a fencing background. He was teaching a boy how to fence earlier. And is disarmed nearly immediately. They knock the sword right out of his hand, and
they don't knock the sword out of his hand. He goes after the guy, breaks it off, and then throws his sword down.
Oh, he throws it down. That's right. Yeah. And he says, I don't want to fight him.
And the guy's like, I don't care if you don't want to fight me. I'm about to run your ass through. Mm-hmm. And then Elnor comes. He's in the crowd, or he comes out of nowhere, and he's like, listen, if you value your life, stop what you're doing right now. And the guy goes to lunge at Picard, and I swear to God, dude, this guy is literally like Romulus, man. He's Dark Legolas. Busts his sword out, does some jump move, kicks first dude in the chest, uses him to spin around, kicks second dude in the chest, and as he's finishing the spin, slices the third dude's head off. This guy in the previous scene who's standing up here.
The senator.
Yeah, the senator slices his head off, all in one quick move. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, okay, this guy's gonna be
he's no joke.
This guy's gonna be real tough to take down in later episodes. So Picard has definitely found himself a good protector. We're talking I feel like he's as strong as Data, but way more agile than Data ever was. Because think about it, Worf and Data were kind of Picard's his entourage when he'd go on high danger away missions. You ever go back and watch those TNG episodes where shit's getting really, really real, and they send Worf and Data with Picard usually, or Worf, Frakes, or Worf, Riker, and Data are usually the top three to go with them.
Well, most of the time, especially in TNG era, captains are not allowed to go on away missions. They got to stay with the ship.
Right. But there are a couple of times where he actually goes on those away missions.
Yeah. But the standard away team is led by the
security officer, right?
Well, it's Riker in command of it. They bring Worf, they bring Data, and they usually bring Crusher.
Yep. And before that, it was Tasha.
Right before Worf. Yeah.
Before Worf. So, but anyway, it would appear that this guy, Elnor, Dark Legolas, is gonna be his security detail. Because holy shit, man, that was a sick little move he pulled. And I'm hoping we get to see some more, because you're not gonna see it out of Patrick Stewart. I'm hoping we see some one-on-one combat scenes, and we might in the next episode. We might. That's what we're leading up to here at this point.
So, to your point earlier about promises, and we talked pre-stream about him having such a change of heart about this, right?
Yeah.
We talked about broken promises ad nauseum so far in the podcast. But in the beginning, Zani had said to Romulus that
Romulus.
That promises are a prison, right?
Right.
This Romulan is upset that Picard didn't keep his promises, right? And he's really and initially the reason why Elnor refuses to help Picard is because he is upset that promises were broken. But
yeah,
what happens in the interim? He storms off. Who do you think he goes and talks to?
Probably Zani.
And what does she tell him?
Probably tells him yo, do you remember way back in the day, when I said broken promises and he still brought me stuff and blah 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 blah. Or probably tells him something
exactly,
Picard's an honorable man, or gives him something that
exactly. And I think that's why the change of heart happens. Without saying it and without necessarily showing it on screen, I think that's why he has the change of heart and comes and saves John Locke Pickard.
John Locke Pickard. Hey, what's up, Anna? Thanks for the like on the stream. Welcome into the Picard review series. So this scene here is right after that guy gets his head lopped off. And he basically, like, you can see even like in his lowered head, lowered eyes, he's like kind of, I don't want to say he's like submitting himself, but like he apologizes in this scene to a group of Romulans in some random square somewhere. But you see from the Tanner, thank you for the like on the stream, buddy. Panda Man, what's up, Sarah? Good to see you. But you see from that picture that the relocation area is not very big, so I would assume that he's talking to a pretty decent contingent of Romulans when he's talking to these folks. And basically humbles himself, and he's like, yeah, I failed you and I'm sorry for it. Like, I don't know if I can even make it better. Like, I'm just here to apologize and humble myself before you. And it's at this point that basically Picard, people that are on the ship, Rafi and Rios and Girardi are like, all right, you ready to get the hell out of there? Cause they're ready to come like kill your ass, basically. And he's like, oh yes, now get us the hell out of here. So he beams.
Somehow they know to beam both of them up.
Yep. They beam both Elnor and Picard up. And immediately right when they get back onto the ship, this was an awesome part of the episode. Dude, this show is fire and I freaking love it. Thank you, Dr. Powder. I appreciate it. Thanks for the like on the stream. Tanner, thank you for the massive share bomb. I appreciate that. What do we got? 1, 2, 3 shares. We got Sarah with the like. Appreciate that. Thank you for tuning in, ladies. Miss Sarah and Miss Anna coming in and enjoying the stream tonight. That's Serpes Gaming and Vulpixia. If you guys haven't checked them out, please make sure you do.
Vulpixia is an awesome name.
Yes, it's an awesome Pokemon too, actually.
Quite.
Yes, quite.
Indeed.
So they get beamed back up onto the ship, and I love this part because through this whole series, through this whole show so far, Picard has been a man out of his depth. It's been very clear, like, he's 20 years removed from pretty much anything. Stop that. It's pretty much removed from anything Starfleet for like the last 14 or 15. I'm sorry, I said 20. 14 or 15 years. And clearly things have changed in the last decade plus since he's, donned a Starfleet uniform. But this scene right here where he immediately grabs Elnor by the arm and is like, yo, dude, that guy didn't have to die. Why did you kill him? And the guy's like, it's Colin Kai, bro. Like
he tried to kill you.
The guy made his choice. You know what I mean? The guy made his choice. And Picard here in the next little part, he's like, you will basically go after and attack who and when I tell you to. Yeah.
And ain't gonna be no killing without my say so.
I will not let you kill people without my say so. And you can tell Elnor's like, screw you, guy. Like, I'm here to protect your ass, man. You're not gonna tell me to stop. It was just a very well done scene between two really, really good actors, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And Picard grabs him and he's like, you're not gonna do this. And he's like, all right, I promise I won't do this. And Picard goes, swear it. And then they do the particular open of the palms thing between. But this was from the preview of the season, which to me when I first saw the previews for the season, I thought that this was like his way of greeting someone on his ship or like greeting a Romulan. But I think this
something
means
particular to the Colin Kai. I think
it's something particular to the Colin Kai because he does it with the lady. Mm-hmm. And all of them when he goes to talk to them and greet them, but he also does it here in this scene when he makes him swear to not draw his sword unless basically Picard tells him to. So I thought that was a really cool scene because it kind of shows us like the firm-handed Jean-Luc again, like, yo, like you're gonna
starting to come back into his own a little bit.
Starting to come back into his own a little. And we like anybody who thought that he was gonna be like that off a rip on episode 1, like, come on, were you really thinking that he was gonna just jump back in and be old TNG Jean-Luc Picard? Stop fooling.
You gotta have some dynamics.
Stop fooling yourself, man. He's an 80-year-old man and he's been out of Starfleet for 15 years. Like, that's what's going on, Tanner. It's good to see you, buddy. So it's going to take the guy a little bit to get back into the ebb and flow of things and to get his step back. And I think we're finally starting to see that here in the 4th episode, which is awesome because we've got half of a season left. So I told you, man, we've got some exposition, then we've got a mid-season climax, then probably a little bit of denouement, a little bit of something happens in the next episode. I'm going to tell you that right now, to where in episode 6 and 7, the main characters are going to be left kind of like reeling from it, or like trying to pick up the pieces and figure out what to do next. I'm calling that right now. So, after that scene with Elnor and Picard, what are you doing, Tanner, you weirdo? After the next scene with Elnor and Picard, we go back to the Borg cube, and you see Narek sleeping in what can only be assumed as Soji's bed, because this is oddly where his sister Rizzo, the lady in the scene there, has found him in the last couple of episodes. How the hell she knows that he's on this Borg ship, and specifically in this room? And
well,
then
she sent him to the Borg ship.
True, but still, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Could you maybe not come into my girlfriend's bedroom and like be all like weird incestual sister with me? Like.
So here's the thing. Listen. Step sibling porn is the hot shit right now. That's what everybody's watching. So I think this is appealing to that demographic. Like, what are you doing, bro?
We'll see.
It is. It's like one of the most searched things on Pornhub, I guess.
Oh yeah. How would you know that?
What I read.
That's what I read.
I read it.
That's what I read. I don't know. Because you're an odd dude for putting that little mouth thing in the nose and the eyes and the bubble caption bubble.
No. And also Rogan talked about it.
Oh, okay. Rogan talked about it, so for sure. All right. So anyway, Rizzo, what did I just see? Mason's like, what did I just walk into? It's the Picard review series.
We're talking about step sibling porn, dude.
We're just talking about these two here and their damn sibling weird intimate thing that they got going on. Because she comes in here and she's all like
laying on the bed and
touching
on him,
touching up on him, and then like kind of like weird chokes him out to like
make
weird
him, like erotic asphyxiation.
I guess their safe word is the destroyer, because he eventually mutters it and she stops choking him out. So
tell me what she is. Tell me. Say it. Say her name.
The destroyer. All right, that's the safe word, bro. You're good. So anyway, she keeps mentioning the goal about, and this is where things get a little interesting, because we now find out. He does
mention something very, very cool here.
We now find out that there are possibly not just Soji and Dodge, that there could very well be more, and that we need to find where they came from, or who created them, or what created them, and they don't know that yet.
That he's throwing her the old baloney pony is so that he can get information out of her without her activating.
That's correct. And the reason he's doing it as slow play as he is right now is because he's... What are you doing, step bro? This is so wrong.
See, exactly I told you.
What I'm talking about.
I'm not making this up, dude.
This is so wrong.
What are you doing, bro?
Tanner, I just said, because you put all that crazy emoji stuff in there.
I didn't get the emoji on my stream.
You didn't, but I did.
Oh, you got the special fancy one.
Yeah, I'm just messing with you, Tanner. I'm just messing with you, buddy. Anyway, so we get this part where they get all weird, and you find out that there could be more than just Soji and Dodge, and that we need to find out who or where they came from. And if he doesn't do this within a week, we're going to go back to episode 1, where there's guns blazing and assassinations happening out in public, basically.
Yeah, but I mean, they proved that was ineffective there, so I don't know how or why. I mean, I guess they destroy the destroyer, but they don't learn about anything else, which I guess is probably objective 1B is to learn about everything else, and objective 1A is to destroy the destroyer.
Right, which is funny because in the last episode, Ramda makes specific mention of, are you the one who's alive or the one who's dead?
Yes.
So I don't think Soji ain't going anywhere. That's at this point, I would say that's an accurate accurate read on the situation. They're both very obsessed with this prophecy, and I'm not sure if they're Tal Shiar or if they're Zhat Vash at this point.
Zhat Vash, for sure.
I would speculate Zhat Vash just based on all the anonymity and all the subterfuge, and the fact that not even ex-Tal Shiar know what's going on right now in Shaban and Laris.
Correct. That's also very big.
Yeah.
Another thing, too, and I'll throw this out there just because I'm using logic. This will come to a head before Picard finds her.
Oh, yes. I agree with you.
Because Picard can't just show up to the Borg cube and be like, hey, guys, I'm looking for Soji. You're apparently an android. I brought Dr. Maddox with me.
Yeah,
he created you. Everything you've known is a lie, and like that won't happen.
No.
This is going to come to a head right as he's showing up there.
That is absolutely, I agree, correct with you. Did you, like you said, you can't just zip onto a Borg ship and be like, "What's up, bros? I'm Captain Picard, most legendary and recognizable Starfleet captain in Starfleet, even today." Like, people would know who he is. But you saw how fast the Romulans figured out who he was when he visited the place.
He's a pretty big figure in that community.
Fair enough. But you'd have to assume at this point, 15 years moved on, like.
Well, I mean, you showed when he walked into Starfleet, he had to spell his name for the clerk.
Yeah.
For the the academy student who's working the front desk.
Exactly. So, best part of the episode coming up in the next scene here, which this is the big reveal to this episode. We go back after Rizzo and Narek have their little crazy weird step sibling session there. We go back to the ship that Picard's on, and it's being chased. Like we find out before the Narek and Rizzo scene that a bird of prey has basically found them, or they've been found, or they're being chased essentially off of the planet. Yeah,
they made mention earlier that there was like some baddie who was on this bird of prey who was like this renowned like thief. And the cool thing is, I love this too. This is a original series vintage Romulan bird of prey. It's not like a next gen thing from 30 years ago. This is a like 100-year-old plus starship.
Which maybe you can then explain to people how the next thing happens in this particular scene, because when I saw it, I was like, okay, I don't know, like for me, I can't spot stuff visually like that like you can in Star Trek world. So my immediate thought was, how in the did they just zip that Romulan warbird's wing off the way that they did?
So that's a warp nacelle. So clearly the Romulan warbird's shields suck because they're 100 years old. Even if you upgrade them, there's only a certain amount that you can do.
Well,
the fact that they're able to terrorize anybody in a super old school Romulan warbird is interesting in and of itself.
That could also be the resources that particular outpost has at that time. And also, don't the Romulans give up shields for cloaking ability anyway?
Yes, but the cloak had not yet been no, it had been invented at that point. But I don't know if they had cloaking technology. The Klingons had it first. I'm watching Discovery right now, and they just developed it.
Okay.
So the Klingons have it. I don't know if the Romulans have it at that time. They clearly could have put a cloaking device on there, but it didn't look like that thing was going into or out of cloak. They just cut right through the shields and zipped one of the warp nacelles right off. Right off! Just
one attack, man. Bro, I have an off-topic question for both of you. Can we hold it for the end of the...
Yeah, let's finish we'll finish this scene, and then we'll take questions.
We'll finish this scene, because this is the last scene in the episode, and then we'll go ahead and take questions, off topic or not. Peter, thank you for the like on the stream. So we were both talking about how this was kind of a funny... We think Rios is, Han Rios or Rios Solo or whatever. He's very kind of embodies that archetype from Star Wars, the scoundrel space thief kind of archetype from the Star Wars movies that Han Solo plays so well. Mm-hmm. And both of us, I was literally waiting for this entire dogfight for him to be like, whoa, that ship's got some moves there, like for him to like list lazily to the left or right and like avoid the Romulan warbird. But I gotta say, I was very pleased with, like, he didn't just like move to the left and like completely avoid the warbird.
They know that they can't do that because that's exactly what happened in that movie.
Right. So like he makes some maneuvers, and they're kind of dogfighting with this Romulan warbird out there, and then all of a sudden, zip, another ship comes in. And initially when I saw this, I didn't know if it was like another Romulan piece of technology that was coming to assist the Romulans, because that would have made sense, like with them being right by the planet.
Sure.
but it's not. It comes in and it helps them destroy the Romulan warbird, but in the process, itself gets dinked and gets run into the defense grid, only to have the captain beamed out right before the ship blows up. And that captain is none other than 7 of 9, baby. She gets zipped onto the ship, and we finally get our old school Star Trek. I think this is like the first old school Star Trek cameo we've gotten, really.
Yeah, it's the first legacy character, I believe.
Yeah, so, and even
they make mention of some others, but this is the first one you see.
Even Picard is like,
7 of 9? Like, what are you doing here? Like, he basically stops, like, what the fuck? Like, stops just short of that.
God, it's so good, so good. So she gets on, like, you could see on her head, she get banged up, she's got running, like she's got wrecked by this Romulan warbird, only to get teleported out of there at the last second. And she just looks at him and she goes, "You owe me a ship, Picard," and then proceeds to pass the hell out. And that is the end of the episode. Baby, and we are looking
Gangster.
We are looking down the barrel of a real good episode next week.
They're setting it up.
Now, we've been talking about this whole Maddox and how he's our MacGuffin and it's supposed to get us to Free Cloud. Once we get to Free Cloud, there's some shit that's gonna happen, man. In the episode preview from next week.
Yeah, well, they've like, did you see the episode preview? They've got him like all like decked up.
I know.
He's got like an eye patch on. It's like all steampunky all of a sudden.
But that's kind of, I think, his nod to the old detective character that
Dixon Hill?
Yeah, Dixon Hill,
man. Dixon Hill wore a trench coat and like a fedora.
I know he wore a trench coat, but it's all very like 20s heisty looking. You know what I mean? Like it looks very old school, like they're in and out.
I'll have to give it another watch. It looked kind of like steampunk or diesel punk to me.
I think he was in a nice like pinstripe suit, but he had the eye patch over his head. Patch. Yeah, it was weird. Like
number 1. I call him number 2.
Yeah, exactly. I call him number 2. So yeah,
which is an odd nod to number 1.
Yeah, it's weird nod.
Very cyclical.
Weird nod. So yeah, a couple of just next week is going to be. I called it when we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. I said,
we get to see 7 of 9 shoot up that bar, which we've been seeing since before the show aired.
Yeah, that's in the preview or the trailer clip. We get to see her shoot up the bar. I think we're gonna finally get the talk with her and Picard, where she's like, "What the hell are you doing all the way out here, Picard?" And it makes sense too if she's all the way out there. And they're getting closer and closer to this Borg cube, like that she would be out there too. You know what I mean? Because Hugh's out there on the Borg ship.
Well, yeah, and you made mention of this also earlier. It looked like they were having that conversation in his study, but
it's not. The study is actually redesigned for the ship. Like
that's the hollow program that we saw earlier. So it's a good little
nice little misdirection by the people who put the trailer together, because you assume it's at Chateau Picard, like back on Earth, but it's not. It's in his holodeck on his ship. I'm convinced of that now. So we get the end of this. We get the preview for the next scene or the next episode, which looks to be like to be fair with you, I hope there's really not much with Soji and the cube next week. I hope it's all this particular heist all episode long, like thing, because that's how you do a mid-season finale, you know what I mean? Like you focus it on those main characters, and then you pick up the pieces in episode 6 and 7. So I think we're going to get even less of the Borg cube and Soji next week. And like I'd say 3/4 to like 4/5 of the episode is gonna be this particular, this extraction for Maddox to try and get him out of Free Cloud, because that's what they're doing. It's almost like a heist episode where they're dressing up in disguises, trying to like subterfuge their way in there. Thanks for the like on the stream, Dill. Trying to subterfuge their way in there with these disguises, and then clearly by the episode preview, it's a trap. And then you see 7 and 9 blasting off her disruptors,
shooting their way out of the joint,
shooting their way out of, like he said, like Grant said, the joint, like you said, you know. So, this is gonna be awesome, man. Like the next week's episode is gonna be lit. I hope
I'm pretty jazzed about it.
I hope we get an explanation as to how the hell 7 of 9 knew they were out there to begin with.
I'm sure it'll probably be the first thing that happens in the episode.
Most likely, yes.
After the flashback.
Yeah, right after the flashback that happens. I wonder if the flashback will include 7 of 9 in some form or fashion.
Oh, that'd be great.
I'm going to throw that out there. Flashback will
I like your predictions. You have great predictions this week.
The flashback will include something with 7 of 9. I'm thinking.
Because they've all been Picard-centric so far.
Or might include something to do with Maddox, because...
Yes, could be that too.
I'd say either Maddox or 7 of 9. I'm actually, now that I suggested Maddox, I'm actually more leaning towards it probably being about Maddox, because he's been kind of the mysterious character in the Shroud here over the last, 3 episodes. Even from episode 1, when they first mentioned him, they're like, okay, we got to go find this guy. But even more so in the last 2 to 3 episodes, this is our MacGuffin, like we said at the beginning of the episode. Maddox is our MacGuffin. We've got to go to find him, which means we got to go to Free Cloud, which means, we've got to get there somehow and do something there. So, that's kind of where we're at as far as... And I'm excited for anybody. I know that the ratings have dropped a little bit on this show after the first few episodes, and I can understand why that is. It's because it's been very filled with exposition.
Yeah,
very
expository.
Very expository. No action until this episode, really.
No action. They would pepper one scene in each episode just to keep everybody happy.
But this was heavy. The last 15 minutes was, him going through the fencing duel, and then basically Elnor doing his thing and beating the shit out of 3 guys and chopping dude's head off. And then the dog fight with the bird of prey, and then 7 and 9. I don't know that we've had this much action in an episode since the first episode.
No, we have absolutely not. And I think that I was thinking about this earlier today. I think I'm going to sneeze here.
Okay. Way to dab on him with your sneezes, bro.
Thanks. That's what I do.
Anyway, go ahead.
I forgot what I was saying, Kremit.
You said exposition, heavy action.
Oh, yeah. So to sell it, I think I made mention at the start of the podcast.
Yeah.
To sell it, they had to get action first, then they exposed. Now they're getting back into the action. I'll expect to see the ratings rise again after this.
I would too. And here's the parallel I'm going to draw right here. Everybody shat on The Witcher through the first 3 to 4 episodes. Everybody shat on that show. And then everybody watched episodes 5 through 8, and it's one of the best rated shows on Netflix right now. Everybody, it was either beating or even with The Mandalorian for the whole time that it was out as one of the most popular stream shows.
I got to get a Disney Plus account or access to one so I could watch that.
Access to one, you say?
Access, indeed.
By the way, I don't condone non-copyrighted or illegal pirating of any material whatsoever, Panda Fam. Just saying that right now. But
I'll access it with my credit card.
I'll access it. Yeah, you'll do one of these. Zoop right up my ass there. With your credit card is what you're gonna do.
Right up my ass.
Just right up my ass there.
Destroying any chance you had of coming to my party.
Destroying any chance you had of coming to my party. Nice South Park references today, man. Shit.
The second one.
I know. Right at my ass. Destroying any chance you had.
Did we get to that off-topic question?
Yeah, no, we haven't gotten to the off-topic question yet. So pretty much we're done. We're wrapped up at this point talking about...
Yeah, we haven't seen... We're 4 episodes in.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's still footage from previews that was released before the show that we still haven't seen, namely meeting Riker and Troy. So they teased a hell of a lot they've teased every legacy character we've seen so far.
Yes, and you want to mention another thing. We haven't seen Riker on screen yet.
That's what I mean. There's things that they showed us pretty significantly before this show even aired.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What I'm saying is we haven't seen Riker on screen yet, but if you look at the directing credits for this episode, it's
None other than Jonathan Frakes.
It's Jonathan Frakes who directs this
Commander
episode.
Riker.
Commander Riker, the guy who plays Riker. So I think if you're an eagle-eyed Star Trek fan like Grant is here, like you are, buddy, I think that's kind of the show's way of letting us know he's coming soon. He's gonna be in an episode, probably, I would guess, probably 6, maybe 7 after this heist.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I do not see him popping up in the next episode. I don't think it'll happen. Unless they hurry through that heist and get off planet, but I don't see that happening either.
Unless it's like 7 and 9 was at the very, very end of the episode, like shit happens and they meet up.
Yeah, but you saw the exposition. He walks up, he talks to Riker and Troy's kid. The kid says, "Yeah, Captain Picard's here," and Riker's like, and then they're like hugging, and then Riker's like sitting with them on that park bench. So it's not going to be that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I would say maybe episode 6. That's my guess on this. But anyway, couple of little notes. No Riker, no Troy, but Jonathan Frakes directed the episode. To me, Romulan sounds a lot like Elvish from Lord of the Rings. Not sure anybody else feels that way or not, but it sure as hell does. And like I mentioned throughout this review, pretty much his talking not getting him out of shit situations. Like, they've taken everything that the Next Generation has done and did each episode and basically like turned it on its head. Like, oh, you think you're gonna talk your way out of this? Get wrecked. You're gonna actually like duel me with a sword instead, bro. So yeah, anyway, to Tanner's question, my off-topic question for both of you is, what's both of your opinions for the new gen consoles, both PS5 and Xbox Series X, Ultra, which do you think is better as of right now? With what specs and information have been revealed? Well, I'll answer that first.
You can answer it only because I don't know shit about either one of them, other than I've been a PlayStation guy for a long time.
I will answer it. I will be getting the Xbox Series X first because I've been an Xbox guy pretty much my entire life, and I have a PS4 right now, so that's kind of what prompts me to get it. Strictly from a space consumption standpoint, I would prefer the PS5 because it doesn't look like a dehumidifier. It only looks like the bottom of a Dyson vacuum, which isn't much better in my opinion. I would say both of the designs are clunky as shit. They both look overburdened, but if you consider the amount of technology that's going into them, we're talking about consoles that are already next gen to the PC that I have built, which is ridiculous. Like, we're talking about Zen 2, like the new Ryzen processors are going into it. We're talking about M.2 hard drives that load faster than my SSDs load in my computer. They're basically boasting no load times in console games with these next generation consoles. I'm only getting an Xbox Series 1X first because I don't have an Xbox current gen right now. And that I already have a PS4 that was sold to me at a very, very healthy price by one of my followers. A PS4 Pro, I got that, a couple of games. Xbox or mini fridge. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Xbox.
Mini fridge.
But that's been the joke. Like, the Xbox looks like a mini fridge, and the PS5 looks like the bottom of like one of those Dyson vacuum cleaners.
Is it a sphere?
No, it's like the rectangular part of the bottom of a vacuum. That's what, and it legitimately I think looks like that. So, but again, when you consider, like, all of this time we've been going smaller with consoles, and I honestly feel like they kind of shot themselves in the foot with that. The fact that they're going bulkier with the design, I'm okay with that. If it means you're going to give me like 3 times more power from the last console to this console, I'm good with that. These consoles are supposed to be stronger than my computer is right now, which is, I've never once in my life have I ever said that about consoles, that they were ever able to keep up with PC technology. And for the first time ever, I think they might have done it. Like, I think PC gaming and console gaming might be on the same level now.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. So Xbox One
Thanks
X.
for the education, because I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah,
Like I said, I need to get my hands on a PS4 so I could play Final Fantasy VII when it comes out. Because I don't have one. My birthday's coming up. It was legit the only thing I put on my Christmas list,
and
I didn't fucking get it.
No, of course, because
I cleared my Christmas list off except for a PS4.
It sucks because at our age, 34, 35, almost 35 and 36 now, like when you put that on a Christmas list for like a significant other or a parent to get, they're gonna be like, you're fucking 35 years old. What do you need a gaming system for? Like,
for goddamn Final Fantasy.
Need it for goddamn stress relief. That's what I need it for. What's your opinion about the new...
You make money off it.
What's your opinion about the new gen consoles switching to SSD drives? Good. Do it, man. It's faster. It loads faster. They're supposedly going with M.2 drives in the brand new next gen consoles. Like, I think like my PS4 Pro has a hard drive in it right now. Maybe I'd have to look up the specs to it. It's either a hard drive or like an old generation SSD, which in my opinion is way better because it loads way faster than a hard drive does, at least twice as fast. And an M.2, which is what I understand they're putting in these next gen consoles, loads even faster than an SSD. That's how they're able to boast that they'll have either minimal or no load times with some of these video games, is the M.2 drives that they're using with these new consoles. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, if anybody has any other questions pertaining to the 4th episode of Star Trek, we're happy to take those now. Otherwise, if we are all finished, if nobody has any questions, I believe that brings our episode 4 review to a wrap. I want to thank my champish friend all the way out in Portland here this week for swinging in. It was good to not have any 8K graphics. No, that's not a possibility. That's something that is happening, Tanner. My computer right now with an SLI linked 2080 Ti could run 8K graphics. If anything out there, like if 8K TVs weren't $10,000, you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. Right. Like 4K TVs are just now starting to become affordable, and people are already talking about gaming in 8K. It's like, could we take a second and take a breath and enjoy what we have for maybe a couple of years before we start?
Nah, there's money to be made.
Before we start, like I remember I bought my 2080 Ti last year, and they're already talking about the 3000 series of NVIDIA graphics cards and the next generation of like 2080 Ti Supers and stuff like that. It's like, can I just have a year to enjoy my $1,000 investment before I have buyer's remorse, please? Thank you very much. Please. Also 120 frames per second of 4K. Yep, with the new technology that's going in there. Remember, Tanner, you have to keep in mind it's Zen 2 technology, which is the Ryzen 3000 series. This is the absolute newest Ryzen stuff that can be put
named after Andre Ryzen.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. But we're talking about processors that have upwards of like 12 cores, 16 cores, 24 cores, 64 threads, 32 threads, 48 threads. To give you an idea of how many cores and threads I have in my really, really relatively new i7-9700K from Intel, which, by the way, Intel is losing this game right now really, really, really bad to Ryzen. My i7-9700K, that's equal to a Ryzen 3900X or a 3800X nowadays with 8 cores and 16 threads. My processor has 8 cores and 8 threads, and I can game in 4K just fine. They're releasing fucking processors that have 16 cores and 32 threads. That's twice, at least in theory, twice the processing power that my chip has in my computer. There was a video by Linus Tech Tips where dude basically took their new Ryzen Epic processor, which is 32 cores and 64 threads. Or no, it's like 32 cores and 128 threads or some crazy ridiculous thing. The guy was able to run a workstation from that computer and hook up 4 other separate computers just to that processor and run all those computers in 4K. 8 cores, 8 threads, or 8 cores, 16 threads, which is better than my PC has. And he was able to run it in 4 separate PCs off of that one processor. Yep. That's where we're getting to today, boys and girls. We're getting to workstations off of these processors. So yeah, it's crazy, man. Crazy.
Resurrect LAN parties.
You don't even need LAN parties anymore.
I know, I'm joking. It's a joke.
You just have someone who's got thousands of dollars to buy one of these processors and then hook all of your workstations up to this processor and watch everything. And it was cool. He showed a little video of him playing like a brand new, like a newer generation game in like 4K or 1440p at like 120 frames while a computer that was on the same workstation was literally processing like 4K images, like lickety fucking split, because that's how good Ryzen's are nowadays. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy, man. Hey, what's up, Brandon? Good to see you. Did you see my comment, AMD 2 Navi? Yes, I did see your comment, Tanner. I did, yes. But anyway, Panda Fam, I think at this point we're going to go ahead and call the review series here for this episode. I want to thank everybody for coming on by. I want to again thank my very special co-host, Grant Sabo, who is broadcasting from Portland. I want to say GG's on the... Did you spot for the better internet for tonight?
I didn't.
I was going to say I
didn't have an option. I'm staying at a different hotel. Okay. So, like, I normally stay at the Courtyard Marriott, and that's a much nicer hotel. I'm at the Hilton Garden Inn now, and this thing's kind of jank, but apparently the internet's a little bit better. So
okay. I was going to say we had zero connectivity.
Oh,
issues.
Yeah, this was great.
This was very clean tonight. So
I'm also using the work PC. I think I might do that in the future from now on.
Awesome. Sounds good. Sounds good.
A few years newer than mine.
Good. All right, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and end up the stream. I'm not going to send you to any other streamer because this is kind of a unique podcast series, so I'm just going to end this off. For those of you who are regular viewers of the stream, make sure you tune in tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to be on Apex or something else tomorrow. I haven't figured it out yet. Yeah. And also, just a real quick note before we take off here. We do have a competition going for video editors.
All right, this is cool.
I'd like about anywhere from a minute to a minute and 30 seconds. I would like for someone to create a video montage. There's details on my gaming page. I've tagged a song that I would like used in that video montage. You have to find the clips and you have to put together the video montage. We'll put up any entries we receive before the 1st of March, and the winning, we'll put up these entries that we receive, and I'll put it up to a vote for in the community, and the winning montage. Now, I want to be very, very clear here. The winning montage may not be my featured intro montage, but the winning montage that gets picked in the poll will win $200. Either in like a Visa gift card or cash or something. I'll figure it out. But it'll be a $200 value for you. So get your creative juices flowing, Panda Fam. And if you have any questions regarding this, please go ahead and DM me. Tanner, you can catch episodes of Picard on CBS All Access if you're in the States. If you're in the UK or Canada, you can catch it on Amazon Prime because y'all are a bunch of lucky bastards and don't have to.
Yeah. They come out Thursdays on CBS. I think a couple of days later if you're on Amazon, like they were coming out on Fridays.
Yeah, they do come out a little bit later if you're on Amazon, but if you
want, it's like a day delay.
If you want to catch them like right on the premiere date, and I found they typically come out at like 2 o'clock in the morning Central Standard Time, like Thursday morning, maybe 3 o'clock in the morning the latest, but they've been out really, really early. Like before.
I wake up and watch it while I get ready for work.
Yeah, they're out early enough you can wake up for breakfast and watch it in the morning, so it's pretty good. So yeah, anyway. That'll be it for tonight, Panda Fam. Make sure you check out that post regarding the video montage. We'll be back at you again tomorrow morning with some more stream action. But this is your boy Tambourine Panda, and Grant Sabo joining you live. The Champish one joining you live with the Picard's episode 4 review. We'll be back at this again with a mid-season climax or finale, from what I'm feeling.
You've been calling it for a while.
And the review of that next week. So strap in and get ready for some action next week, Panda Fam, because we're excited to bring it to you. Anyway, y'all have a good rest of your night. Peace out, pandas.